Ah, this is a life. Welcome to the Great Egg Race. We've constructed a desert island in the studio, for which the teams will have to rescue some rather peculiar castaways. The castaways are actually dismembered bicycles. Machinery will have to be constructed, which will have to operate from clearly defined areas equidistant from the island, to rescue as many parts of bicycles as possible, so as to enable the team to be the first to ride a bicycle around the studio. In order to cultivate a certain delicacy of touch, an egg will also have to be rescued unbroken. Now, teams, you have 4 hours until sundown. I suggest you start grabbing.
There's some sort of crane.
Well, you only need a mechanism. That'll blue line will be working on, innit?
Yeah. 10, 12 feet.
We need a space frame of some sort to support the mechanism, right? We'll have a central pin.
Use the steel wire for tension members and wood for compressors. Just design it. What we want to do is cut down the weight of the jib as much as we can.
Why? Well, if we have a
so you don't want to be lifting the weight of the jib, really. So you want as light a structure as you can with as many tension members in it as you can.
So we've got to work out the order in which to do it.
Yes, and we may have to have 2 implements on the end, one which will get the egg, which is a different piece of thing.
Yes.
We don't know. A net or...
So we want some sort of crane, a raising and lowering device.
And something to hold
something
it.
that holds it. And something that locks on once it's looped underneath will hold it on.
So that it won't
so that
slither
once you've gone to
around.
the point of picking it up, you don't lose it.
Yeah.
Yes, and then we get it back here somehow, swinging.
But then we've got to think how to put it together.
The yellow team this week is a team of housewives from the Newcastle upon Tyne area who call themselves Practical
The human being
Poplars.
down picks it all up, and the
Yes.
human being does. No.
It's not a very complicated bicycle, I think we can get
But
that.
what, having got the egg, do you think we've got to go around it, the studio with the egg as well?
Yeah.
Hang it on the
In your
handlebars?
Those bicycles weigh a lot.
They can do, yeah.
They weigh a lot up there.
Yes, depends how far we've got to reach. If we've got to reach out to the middle of the island,
But that would be your best bet for your stand. Use that as your stand.
The green team is Bicester Farming Club, consisting of 2 farmers and an electronics engineer.
and then to the centre of the island will be another 6 foot. Just depends how far we've got to reach, doesn't it?
The heaviest bit isn't the one more than 10 pounds, is it?
Wouldn't have thought so. No, wouldn't have thought so. Well, that's fine, it'd be quite...
Yeah, so what's the biggest
Maybe.
timber you got, you see?
Yeah, we've got quite a bit of timber there. We've got to use some of these larger structural beams anyway. Actually, we've got some sheeting there, Charlie. There's
join
no
it
reason why
together?
we shouldn't make a sort of matrix type girder thing, you know.
Yeah, make up a girder.
Yeah.
Wouldn't take long to make a girder out of this.
Well,
You've got,
I don't know. It's possible. Shall we say.
yeah,
Possible.
you've got 2 of these.
Sit. What else have we got?
I was just looking at this actually. There's a type of...
Chop a little bit
Type
off
of
there,
fishing
right? Slit it, take a section out, slide it, so there's a difference between that and wedge it, and that'll go in. And plenty of
We want
grease in
a fairly
your
good bearing.
Yeah, with the water so there.
If we got a piece of plywood or something, this blockboard would do.
And finally, the red team is from Morganite Crucible, represented by a draftsman, a development engineer, and a production superintendent.
Fits fairly sort of tightly in there.
What's the
You
difference?
just
I'm not
make
with
that-
you there, you'll have to explain this.
What's the difference in size?
Whilst the teams are grappling with a problem, let me introduce this week's guest judge, Gordon Higginson from Durham University, who's done it all before.
Hello.
Gordon, here we are surrounded by all the pieces of bicycle, the bigger bits on the outside of the island and the smaller bits in the middle. How do you think they ought to start tackling actually grasping these?
Well, quite differently, I think. The big bits are fairly easy to pick up by some sort of hooking arrangement. That certainly applies to the wheels and to the frame. The very tiny bits can be picked up with quite a powerful horseshoe magnet that's provided with the kit for all teams.
As long as they're made of steel, of course.
So long as they're made of steel. But as you see, I've picked up 2 red bolts and 1 yellow bolt there, and it's part of the rules that if you pick up a foreign team's part, you have to return it to approximately the same place.
So it's a bit unselective.
The magnet is unselective. And there are, of course, a number of small parts which are non-magnetic, including these spanners and the bicycle stand. And then finally, perhaps the most difficult of all, and certainly different from the others, is the question of picking up the egg. There is a pair of tongs provided, kitchen tongs, which could be used to pick up the egg, but there are other ways too. It may be possible to build a lazy tongs mechanism that wouldn't need an externally applied grasping device.
Well, in a sense, this is one end of the problem. Now we have to look at the materials end of the problem to see what bits and pieces they actually got for making these things.
Right, off we go.
We are, of course, providing with the usual collection of small hardware, which we have a selection here.
Oh, pots and pans and all, but
give us a sort of rundown.
some of the relevant ones are here. In lifting whatever it is they have to lift, they need a mechanism of some sort. And they have small pulleys of the sort that are familiar in most kitchens.
Before spin dryers.
Before spin dryers. And some larger V-belt pulleys. They have a clothesline, and they also have this quite strong nylon rope. And they have strong tension members in the form of chains. And then when it comes to lifting at the other end, apart from the things we've discussed already, they have, for example, these rather fierce alligator clips. And what have you got over here?
Well, rather more primitive things. I've got a sieve, which could, I suppose, be used in some sort of scooping motion. And I suppose for people who are into flypaper technology, there could be loops of sticky tape, apart from tying things together, and of course the inevitable string. And of course, for structural purposes, we've given them the usual collection of long plastic pipes, which are very strong, and pieces of wood.
Quite a lot of wood, yes.
You appear to be constructing a drawbridge with outriggers. Is that correct suspicion?
No, not really. No, we're constructing a bridge, in fact, to span the gap from a distance, from a minimum distance to the island.
Your red line is somewhere,
That's right.
somewhere in front of this.
We will span the gap with a bridge, which will have a shear legs A-frame arrangement on it.
I mean, it's a device like that,
That's
which can
right.
nod.
Yes. That will be sufficient height to enable us to move it forward, lower it to get over to the centre of the island.
And how will you swing the thing to be able to scan and appreciate a sector of the island?
Well, the shear legs will be on a central pivot with connecting wires.
Like reins.
That's right, to enable us to steer it either way.
It seems to me that one of the most ticklish jobs will be, if you've only got a dangling rope, to actually locate it sufficiently accurately to hook the component which you want.
Yeah. Well, what we'll do there is to actually have a cane, a 4-metre-long cane, from the hook, so we can accurately control it.
So you can manipulate the hook to hook on something. So you're in a rather better position than the seaside games, where you never win anything.
Yes.
So let's hope you win this one. Thank you very much.
This is the Practical Partners team beavering away. Construction's well underway, but I wonder if you could tell me first what the underlying strategy is. Let's use the drawing for that.
We're sticking to a simple A-frame, which we're going to lean as far past the blue line as we can towards the water, and then push a fishing rod.
A boom goes through the A-frame.
Just a loose boom going through with what we haven't quite developed yet, a grab at the end, which will hopefully grab round the bits of the bicycle.
Well, that seems clear. Many thanks. Let's now have a look at the hardware. Naomi, would you like to show me the A-frame as it's built so far?
This is the structure. The boom goes through here. We've made a stronger boom, a grab on the end.
Would you like to show me how the boom actually feeds through the A-frame? I see.
Through like that.
Out it goes.
The grab on the end. Pick it up.
Back it comes, hopefully.
Back it comes. We'll have to move this back.
You'll withdraw the A-frame so that you can collect the item.
Pieces off the end.
Jolly good. Well, there's plenty to do and not all that much time, so I'll leave you to get on with it. Many thanks.
Right.
No, it's me.
Put it there.
No, it isn't.
We haven't got it in the right position.
Right.
That's it.
Just for this time, I'll overlook the infringement of my pun monopoly on this program. You seem to have made a diving board, which I think stretches the rules to the limit, but it's still within the rules. How are you going to use this?
Well, Martin demonstrated the walking.
See the lightest.
dangerous bit.
The principle of the bridge is that we,
Go on, Roger.
the water plus the weight of Roger, and plus the weight of myself will counteract the weight of Martin at the end,
Yes.
plus the weight of the pieces of bicycle, and he will pass them back to us.
So you have a long moment, as it were.
That's right.
But you clearly need a whole variety of fishing implements, which I think you make. Can you show those to me? Some of them look like gaffs.
Yes.
Work from left to right.
Well, we start with the magnet here, obviously, for the small metal nuts and bolts and so on. And if that can't manage it, we'll then move on to the crocodile grip here. And then we're still working on a gaff arrangement of hooks here, which we can hook various objects with.
You've got an under and over variety.
That's right. We thought we might want to go through like that or over the top and just hook in like that. We're not quite sure which will work best.
You think it's long enough to get the heavier bits and for you to be able to support it? Because the moment on that, of course, on the lever action is very considerable.
Yes, I think these two might have to eat a bit of metal here to hold this end down before we go on.
And here we've got something really exciting.
And that's our egg device, yes. If one imagines the egg there, you see, you clasp round it, and where's it gone? There we are.
So as long as you don't tilt it too far up the other way.
That's right, yes.
You like egg on his spring?
Well, thank you very much. Good fishing.
Thank you very much.
Right, I suppose we ought to get on. Mind the iron, it's
Yes,
hot.
the iron's hot. Strike while the iron's hot. Yeah, come on, everybody out.
The teams have been at it for a fair time now, and practical devices are beginning to rise. So for me, the design is somewhat unexpected. There are, of course, many industrial applications for remote handling in hazardous environments and when handling dangerous chemicals. One application is, of course, in the handling of radioactive substances. And so we sent Leslie Judd to the Atomic Energy Research Establishment Harwell to try her hand.
That is actually much more difficult than it looks. In fact, for me, it's almost impossible. This is called a master-slave manipulator, and it's used for handling objects, radioactive objects, that is, inside a concrete cave. Now, I can see what I'm doing through a 3-foot-thick zinc bromide liquid-filled window. And since moving this material is quite a delicate operation, some of the objects are quite small, you do have to be able to really see what you're doing and also feel what you're doing. And amazingly, you can feel, it's quite a weird sensation. All the movements that I'm making on this master arm here are transmitted by purely mechanical linkage, that's these tapes up here, through to the slave arm, which is inside the cave. Well, the best way to demonstrate this one-to-one feedback is with the help of a plastic beaker. Now, I know automatically how much pressure is needed to hold a beaker in my hand, and I also can feel how much pressure I need to exert on this mechanical master arm to make the slave arm just pick up the beaker without crushing that. But if I continue to exert the pressure, I can actually feel both beakers crushing simultaneously. Amazing. But manipulators come in all shapes and sizes.
I wonder if the accuracy of any of the devices which the teams are making will match that of the robot. We are now looking at the red team, who appear to have built something which is analogous to a medieval siege engine in the solidity of its construction.
Of enormous strength, certainly, Heinz, and yes, it has in common with the old weapons that it swings. As far as I can judge, the whole A-frame swings into position over the island, and from the apex of the A they fish for the parts and then withdraw them.
Well, I've drawn a picture of it here, which I think shows the mechanism itself, the A-frame, the tension of which is taken by a member here, so it can be lowered and raised to reach any reasonable part of the island. It's got a grappling device in here, and I think that they're planning to use a rigid rod, a fishing rod of some kind, to guide the grapple, and it can twist from side to side.
The yellow team, that's the ladies of Practical Partners, have made an A-frame also, and perhaps not surprisingly it is a much more feminine version than Morgan Crucible's. What they're doing is, through their relatively small A-frame, passing a lengthy boom through the cross-member of the A-frame and grabbing at the parts with quite an ingenious device.
It uses one half of the egg grabber you were demonstrating earlier on, and I think has a weighted opener.
Yes, they used half the kitchen grab as the lower part of the hook.
And here's a device which seems to contain part of a garment. What do you think it is?
I'm not sure what sort of garment it is.
I think it may be the genteel device for getting the egg.
You're almost better pushing it up.
Yeah.
The green team have read their rule book very carefully and have pushed the rules to the very borderline of legality. What they've built themselves is a diving board which takes the operator who's going to be fishing for the object of the desire very much closer to the island. I've drawn a picture of it here. And what they've done is a cantilever which is pivoted only just behind the point of closest approach which the rules allow. They're going to counterbalance their fishermen, who's been seen fishing here, by having their dustbin full of water and another member of the team, or possibly two members of the team, on the other end of the seesaw, where of course the leverage is very much smaller, so they need 2 or 2.5 people to balance one of them standing on the side. I think it's really rather a good idea, and I should have thought that if their grab devices are good, they ought to have a good haul pretty quickly. Time is almost up. But before we ask the teams to demonstrate their devices, let's go and see Leslie Judd in the courtyard of Pebble Mill.
Welcome once again to the Egg Race Breakfast Garden, where we're just about halfway through constructing the incredible machine which is transporting an enormous but infertile wallerbird's egg from its nest up in the tree across to the giant egg cup placed on the table. We've just added the grand central section, and like the station, it is big. Ranged along its length are its creators, the Yarsley team, with their combination of engineering, ingenuity, art and taxidermy.
And at this end we have Dewey Duck. The egg will roll onto his back, actuating the release trigger. Dewey will then fly along, carrying the egg. As he gets to this point, he'll release another trigger, which will operate a mechanism to stop him when he gets to the other end. Over to you, Paul.
As the duck stops, the egg will plummet into this chamber, release the grid, pull on this string. The water will come out of this pipe, fill the bucket, which in turn will pull the plug from the main tank, and the water will gush out into the bottom of the chamber. Over to you, Chris.
As the water gushes up into the chamber here, it brings the egg with it. It brings it into this channel along here. As the egg runs down past this point, it releases a little message for our viewers and then passes out of the end of the machine.
Well, what a show this promises to be. John, let's get on with the action.
Right, okay, Dewey?
Our egg is well on its way, but it's still got to be cooked. Don't miss next week's exciting instalment of the Incredible Egg Machine.
The Incredible Egg Machine grows. Our audience have arrived, and the teams are putting the finishing touches to their machine and are poised to start retrieval of the precious egg and the bicycle parts. But before we ask them to start, Gordon, lucidly explain the beautiful simplicity of our marking system.
Righto, Heinz, here we go. For the recovery of an egg undamaged, 10 points. For the first completed circuit of the studio on a bicycle, pedalled, 20 points, and that's for one team only. For each team, a maximum of 20 points for the completeness of the assembly of their bicycle. And finally, 50 points, a maximum for each team, for the design, construction and operation of the retrieval device. That's 100 points in all.
The teams appear to be ready, so they can start now.
The red team have crossed the water.
That's
the machine that actually sits on the island.
The siege engine. Green team have got their frame. And now picking up components with methodical regularity.
The ladies are profiting from having two fishing actions going at the same time, one with the magnet and one with the retrieval hook.
The red team have recovered an egg, apparently intact.
But now the red team are just going into action. Here comes the frame, but they've lost the mudguard in the water.
Near one.
Back wheel for the ladies. Here it comes. Well done.
This was known as flexibility of design.
The green team is the first to start building and already has the front wheel on and the handlebars.
They're now beginning to pick up the smaller pieces. Tactical partners have got their handlebars. I must admit, if I was in their shoes, I would start assembling the bicycle.
What's magnetic?
But of course their machine, their A-frame machine, does need two to operate it. Of course the green team, the red teams, needs all three to operate. So until they've got enough parts, they can't start building at all.
It's almost indecent the way the green team are operating.
The green team are now pulling off the triumph of getting the non-magnetic box spanner.
Right, get assembling.
Now, it's an interesting bit of strategy that the green team have now got enough pieces to really assemble quite a creditable bicycle.
And have stopped fishing, of course.
I think the ladies should start assembling. Should you? If you were in their
Yes,
shoes.
but I think what the ladies have probably done, forgive me for saying, they've given up the race to do the circuit. They see the green team so far ahead of them. So a matter of tactics, they're now trying to get a complete bicycle, or as near a complete a bicycle as possible.
That doesn't sound very nice, does it? Hang on, get this cut.
I don't quite know what view we're going to take, Gordon, about the fact that the red machine's got one foot resting in the water.
A pretty poor view, actually. The ladies are now building. Or rather, one of the ladies is building.
It would appear from the efforts of the green team that in fact, the time spent in building the machine, the bicycle, is not inappreciable.
Well, we have to remember that it really was stripped down. The cranks were taken off, so the cotter pins needed insertion, and the pedals themselves were taken off the cranks.
Can I have some? You go and get it, I can't.
Well, thanks. The ladies' A-frame has proved entirely adequate in strength and operation.
Yes, compared to the red one, it's very much easier to manage.
Yes. The red team is still recovering parts. Unfortunately, they've lost one pedal into the water.
Now for the crunch, the marking. First the red team, Gordon.
Well, the red team recovered the egg intact, so that gets them 10 points. What about the bicycle?
The bicycle parts, they retrieved a fair number of parts. Some of them were dropped in the water. They didn't assemble all that much of it, so we awarded 10 points for that.
Now, the recovery device we thought was rather cumbersome and worked slowly, but out of 50, we give them 20 marks.
So this provides the red team a total of 40 marks. Next, the yellow team.
The yellow team recovered an egg intact, but unfortunately they dropped it in the water on the way, so there's no score for the egg.
And they recovered a fair proportion of their bicycle and got quite a lot of it together, so they score 14 on that score.
The elegant lightweight device they built to recover the bits and pieces we thought was mechanically the best bit of the lot, so to that we give 40 points out of 50.
So that the ladies of Practical Partners score a total of 54. And last, but certainly not least, the green team.
They recovered an egg intact, and for that they get 10 points.
They had the circuit of honor.
As you know, they completed a circuit, and for that they get 20 points.
And they recovered every bit of their bicycle virtually, and assembled most of it, so they score 18.
We criticised the recovery device to the extent that it wasn't a remote handling device in the spirit of the original specification, and so we've penalised them and give them 30 out of 50.
But nevertheless, the green team of the Bicester Farming Club score a total of 78. This means that the winners of this week's Great Egg Race are the green team, the Bicester Farming Club. And that's almost all we've got time for this week. Thank you, Gordon, for being such a nice judge. Thank you, everybody else, for taking part, and goodbye. On your bike, green team.